guest, man.
That's
This has
right.
been a wait. So Bakanga, did you want to get into a full blown debate in this live? Like, cause I know you've
I
been
I've been listening to you for the last hour. I wanted to talk about the
okay,
spanking kid thing.
okay,
Because
okay,
pretty much everything else that you talked with the last guest, we've talked about it before. So I wanted me and you
okay,
to reason together on the whole spanking
okay.
kid things. Because I actually disagree with you on that subject.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So you can go ahead. You lead the conversation.
okay. Well, my whole like agreeing. Okay, well, so let me ask you this: like, do you think there's ever a situation like when you should spank your kids? Like, ever?
No,
Like, okay, so Bakanga, so I'm just asking you this. So like, I
that's
know you
right.
heard that whole encounter. Like, if you had a son and he straight up just like walked up to you and just punched you in the face, like you don't think that's a good time to like maybe spank him if he just like
Now,
straight up like if he challenged you like as a man and just straight up like okay, what about like in your sleep, right? He just poured a bucket of water on your head and just like punched you in the face and like just took a knife and even stabbed you, bro. Like you're just gonna just like you're not gonna spank him. I
I'm
understand
power,
if you say
I'm powerful and strong enough and emotionally stable enough to subdue him without
okay,
inflicting any type of pain on him.
okay, okay. Um, so yeah, so then I guess I mean because we would just I guess just like disagree on that like with our own opinions, but I guess like kind of because it will kind of get like a God debate, bro. Because
It's
again
okay.
like I'm
Like
going
like I
to the
said, you can hit me with
yeah
all your points. I think I can defeat any
okay
point, any reason why you think it's okay to spank kids.
okay. Well, I mean I'll just appeal to the Bible, what it says in
Sure,
Proverbs 13. So
sure.
um yeah, so I
So it
mean
says, "Do not spare the rod and spoil the child."
yeah
So the end goal of that verse is not necessarily to spare the rod. The most important part of that verse is to not spoil the child. And it is consistent with the uncivilized nature of the ancient world. They didn't know any other way. Their lives were not as organized, not as easy as the life that we have today. I am of the opinion, right? Or at least I am of the knowledge that a person who spanks their kid only spanks their kid because they lack knowledge of any other efficient form of communicating with that kid, like an animal, right? The animal cannot understand you. So of course you gotta beat it. You don't got a choice. But we live in a world where we have more efficient ways of communicating with our children to the point where you do not need to inflict physical pain in any way, shape, or form in order to obtain the end result of discipline, learning the lesson, and improving character. There's no justification to spank your kid. If you're spanking your kid, you're emotionally unstable.
okay, so I'll just read the verse here. So it says, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So for me, I interpret that verse meaning like, whoever doesn't specifically, physically discipline their child hates their child. Um, and whoever does discipline their child, loves them. So I mean, that's the way that I interpret the Bible, and I believe that the Bible is true. So, I mean, you're saying that that verse, the content of that verse, have to do with something else. But for me, I mean, it clearly says, "Whoever spares the rod hates his son."
I get what you're saying, QTOP, but you can't ignore the fact that it's literally a proverb. And proverbs can be literal, true, or not. So the rod here represents a form of discipline. And when you look at the world, the ancient world, right, there perhaps were not many ways to discipline kids. So it was consistent with the life that they were living. But in 2024, why do you gotta beat your kid? You don't got patience? Now, give me a scenario in which you think that it would be justifiable for me to beat my kid. Like I said to you, there's always a better option. In 2024, we have resources where we do not need to beat our kids. I don't care how bad that kid is, under any circumstance, you can still discipline that child without ever inflicting physical pain on them with a rod.
Yeah, just give you like a circumstance, like I was saying before, and again, like this would just kind of be like our own like opinions on this thing, because I don't believe in all cases for like anything you should just beat your kid. Like I believe that it's up to the parent, like it's up to their judgment, and I believe when they do determine that it is necessary, given certain conditions, and also has to do with like if the kid is a male or a because it clearly says whoever spits the rod hates his son. So I don't think that we should beat our daughters. I believe that it's only the men to like teach them a particular lesson. But Yeah, I mean, if again, like if my son were to like rise up against me and to challenge me and just punch me in the face, or if my son were to go out and like grape a child, or if my son were to go out and hit his teacher, or steal something, or like vandalize someone else's property, or do these sort of things, and especially if I've already talked to him about these things and I've tried other methods and those methods aren't working, that's when in my opinion, and what the Bible says, I would um, definitely beat them.
Like I said, an uncivilized person would take that verse literally. But we are civilized. We have made progress ever since that proverb was written. And when you consider the fact, QTOP, that it is a proverb, that means that you don't necessarily have to interpret it literally. The word rod simply represents a discipline. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. Anyone who does not discipline their child probably hates their child, right? Because the whole point of discipline is so that they can learn. So when you're looking at methods of disciplines, which method arrives at the better end? For example, if I had a young son, 13 years old, like you said, who punched me, of course I'll subdue him. Now, I'll calm him down. I have that ability because nothing that he did was able to make me emotionally unstable. I'm always sober-minded. I'm always thinking rationally. I'm always thinking logically, right? Now, I will make him work. I'll make my son work. He will do all the chores in the house, and I will sacrifice whatever I need to do in order to ensure that I supervise him, right? When he's worked for 1 week and he doesn't want to work anymore, I make him work for another week. Then I make him work for 2 more weeks. Then I make him work for 3 more weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. 6 months in of doing carpentry work, fixing the whole house, he's going to have to consider the consequences of his action. If I go out there and do that crazy stuff again, my dad's gonna make me do all this work. And kids don't like doing all that work. That's why they're kids. I make him work like a man, but I don't need to beat him. And the good thing about making him work like a man is that I can kill two birds with one stone. I will teach him skills necessary, right? I will interact with him. I will befriend him. He does have a mind. A 13-year-old has the mind to understand. You can conversate with a 13-year-old. You can talk to them. Unless you lack patience, unless you lack kindness, unless you lack goodness, and unless you lack self-control, then you have no option but to beat him because you don't know any other way. But you and I, we clearly know other ways. You got kids.
So
Every kid has a hobby. I will simply make you stop doing your hobby. You want to do grown up stuff? You want to do crazy stuff? Now this is the time. Me and you, right? How important is it for you to discipline your child? How much time are you willing to invest to discipline your child? You can't just get away by giving him a 5-minute ass whooping. He's gonna endure it. He's gonna get used to it, right? You and I, we grew up being beat because our parents didn't have the patience to talk to us. That's the only reason why you and I grew up being beat. That's why our parents beat us. They didn't have the patience. They always had something that was more important than us. But if disciplining your child, QTOP, is as important to you, that means that the moment when it is necessary that you discipline your child, nothing in this world is more necessary to you or more important to you than doing it. So you will have to invest time. You would have to invest a lot of self-control in order to accomplish the end goal, which is not to spoil the child. The end goal is not to inflict pain. The end goal is to not spoil the child. And I think that if you are beating your child, bro, I'm honest with you, bro, you are emotionally unstable or uneducated, or you just don't understand the child.
well, yeah, I mean, Bakanga, I mean, I'm sorry that you like feel that particular way, but I mean, you mentioned that you would put the child to work. I mean, I don't really see like by what means you would do that, because if the child simply just refuses to like listen to anything that you say, and the child doesn't fear you at all, he doesn't fear you as a man, he has no understanding of your word, he has no reverence of your word, and you've already tried multiple methods of discipline, because I'm not claiming that spanking is what you should do in in all circumstances. I'm saying when the circumstances have been exhausted and dependent upon the egregiousness of the offense, there is a time and a place to discipline your child with pain, because that pain is going to teach the child not only to fear you, right, and to fear what is wrong, because I do think that your children should fear you in a particular way. Your children should love you, but they also should have a reverence for who you are as the authority. When you tell them to not do something, they should have an understanding of, okay, this is my father who told me not to do this, and I should fear my father because my father is the authority over me. And I think that we've kind of gotten to a culture where like where this is like whole thing about loving our children, which yes, of course, love our children. I'm not a proponent of not loving your children, but you should discipline them out of love. That's why the Bible says, whoever spares a rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. And I know you're saying that rod here is not, meaning, some sort of literal notion. I mean, I would have you to kind of prove that. I mean, because in this context of this proverb here, I mean, it would be indicative to me that this is definitely talking about a literal sparing of the rod. And then you mentioned, that there was a difference between like, back in, like the olden times and like our methods now in terms of like our therapy and like, those sorts of things. Yeah, that is true. But every child is going to be different. So I believe that some children need to be disciplined in this way.
Again, brother, it is a proverb. The very nature of the word proverb means it's not always literal. In fact, it's rarely literal. It's always symbolic, allegorical, right? There's an old African proverb that says, no matter how slow a snail is, it always gets to its destination. But it's not talking about a snail. It's talking about sometimes going slowly is the safest path to take. That's why proverbs require interpretation. You cannot isolate this specific proverb. Bro, if this was in any other book in the Bible, you could have gotten away with your interpretation, bro. But this is literally Proverbs. It's a proverb. How can you so keenly take it literally, my brother? You're not doing justice to your understanding, to the intellect that you possess. It is a proverb. So rod here absolutely doesn't mean literally, because a rod represents the method of discipline. So you need to be intelligent enough to know what the most effective form of discipline is. And in 2024, beating your child is just not effective at all. Especially if you're the type of person that you beat your children for doing what you do. They watch you do it, then you turn around and beat them. That's very common in situations where kids are beat, right? Because kids observe you. Your kids can see you, especially a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, right? If you're out here beating your kids for using the curse words, when you literally curse like a cursing machine, bro, like, how is that child supposed to learn? It's contradictory. So I think establishing having the patience and the self-control to first of all have the skill to be able to de-escalate a situation with your children, it involves you spending time with them. If you're not there, you don't know how your child thinks. Of course, you're going to try every method and it's not going to work because you don't even know that kid. But bro, a 13-year-old's got a brain that can understand. He can talk with you. He's got feelings. Hey man, why did you do that to that girl? Well, Dad, I didn't know what was going on. It says, son, you stay on this path, you're going to end up in prison. So what I'm about to make you do is to help you not end up in prison. If you want to go to prison, I'll take you there right now. If you don't want to go to prison, I'm going to put you to work for the next 6 months. Everything that you don't like doing, you're about to start doing it. From now on, you're the only one doing chores in the house. You don't do those chores in the house, you eat 1 time a day. You break the law, I take you to the police. First of all, most kids these days can be disciplined simply by timeout. Send them to their room. Take away every toy. Give them nothing but books. Confine them to the room until they think about their actions to the best of their understanding. You can guarantee that your children will understand you that way, QTOP. So it goes both ways, bro. Like, you got to be disciplined too as a parent. You can't discipline your kids if you're not disciplined. Why do you got to beat them? You don't got to beat nobody. They're not animals. They're not slaves. And if your kid is just that they can't get you, perhaps they got a mental issue. So beating them, you don't really get to the end that you want to get to. And if your kid got a mental issue, you probably should take them to a mental health professional. What the Bible says right there, bro, practically, it's not wrong. Do not spare the rod and spoil the child. If you understand that that is a proverb. Don't just ignore the things that your children have done. Don't give them a free pass. But it don't mean you got to beat them. The way you said, bro, pain can be physical and pain can be emotional. There's circumstances where the pain that is necessary is not physical pain, it's emotional pain. How do you induce emotional pain on a child? You make him do things that are productive, things that are common to grown-ups, because children don't like doing things that are common to grown-ups. They say, hey, bro, you're going to study tonight, and I'm going to sit down here for the next 5 hours watching you study. In fact, I'm going to study with you. If I'm not willing to invest that time, of course, I'm just gonna take a whip and think. Listen, bro. Sometimes I think parents just beat the kids for their own to make themselves feel better about themselves. Like you're so mad, you just want to beat the child. If you're not mad, you're not even gonna think about beating the child. You only feel the need to beat that child because you yourself got angry and you can't control yourself. There's and like you said, QTOP, the same reason why you shouldn't beat a girl, you shouldn't beat a boy. They're both children. That's what I think, my bro, on the subject of
Okay,
spanking kids.
okay, man. Yeah, so I have some different points here, Bakanga, that I want to touch on. And by the way, everyone in the chat like wondering, like, because you guys think, oh, QTOP this, QTOP is not talking now, QTOP this. Guys, I have a good amount of like respect for this brother. Me and this brother go way back, and I actually witnessed this brother actually standing up for what was right on a live in which there were people who were slandering my name for no good reason. So guys, I have a lot of respect for this brother, and I don't want you guys to misarticulate how I'm acting, right? Like now, right? Because like again, guys, I have a lot of respect for this brother. Now, okay, Bakanga, a couple of things. So yeah, I agree that kids should be disciplined. I mean that parents should be they should be disciplined, right? If a parent is spanking their children just based off of something that that parent is also doing, and the parent is being a hypocrite and not a good role model, that is a big problem, right? So I don't disagree with that. This is coming from the Bible. So this is talking, about Christians, and so a Christian should be, not provoking their child to anger. A Christian should be, there's different rules around how a Christian should be teaching their child. A Christian should be raising up their child in the Word, in holiness, in righteousness, in these things. And so, if a Christian is being a hypocrite and doing the very things that that child that they are disciplining that child for, that's a problem. That's not setting a good example for that child, and God's going to hold that person um, um, responsible, right? And so you mentioned jail, right? And I thought that was very interesting that you mentioned jail, right? And you said that if your child does something, then you would say, okay, well, if you keep doing this, you're gonna go to jail. So the whole point of not sparing the rod is to prevent these greater issues. So the whole thing is, right, and this is why it depends on who the child is because when you spare the rod, what you're doing is you're opening the door, you're opening the gateway to bigger problems down the road, to that child not actually respecting you, and now he's going to get himself into more trouble. So you're actually loving that child more, right, and helping that child more when you do discipline him in that way, because you're teaching him reverence, you're teaching him who the authority is, and you're actually saving him and preventing him for these further problems down the line. Now, my main question to you is, because it seems to me that you're presupposing that every child is going to be able to just go through these different therapeutic methods, that you're going to know your child in these particular ways, and then from this the child is going to suddenly just get better. Well, Bakanga, unfortunately, that's not how every child works, right? Every child is not just going to hear words of instruction and listen to those words, even if they're being in timeout, even if all these things. Some children need to be physically disciplined, and there's studies on this that show particular children that have dealt with repetitive issues. I can show you studies, they've dealt with repetitive issues, and the only thing that worked, the only thing that stopped them from doing these things is physical discipline, right? And so that's my question for you, right? Like if you've exhausted all these particular methods that you're saying, therapy, you're saying that you make your child work. If they don't want to work, if the therapy is not working, if you're trying to talk to them and that's not working, at what point do you decide to switch up the plan because these particular things are not working, and now you're setting your child up for in a position in which now they can do themselves even more harm and get into even more trouble that will actually hurt them even more than just a little bit of physical discipline.
QTOP, the circumstances in which children misbehave that necessitate spanking is usually directly proportional to them not fully understanding the consequences of their actions. So there is a need to establish a clear line of communication. This doesn't just start as soon as your child starts misbehaving. This should start from the moment you have those children. You are raising them to think a certain way. If you have a 13-year-old that you have to beat physically, you're beating him for your own failures. You did not raise that child properly. As children grow, children inherently understand their dependence on their parents. That's where the respect comes from. Your children would know the things that they cannot have without you. Now, your ability to live by your own word, your integrity, your own discipline, your temperament is the number one key in any system where you have to discipline children. If you ever have to beat your child at 13 years old for something that child watched you do when he was 9, right? You just blow it off. You never did anything. That's why I said to you, bro, it begins with you. A person who needs to use a rod to inflict physical pain on their child, that's because that person knows no other way, and that person is emotionally unstable. What do I mean by emotionally unstable? What I mean is that you're susceptible to your anger. And we know what anger does to people, bro. Anger makes people irrational, right? Because how do you know the exact amount of pain to induce? And how do you know that pain you induced did not actually generate hatred in that child's mind? Like, how does that child know that you're beating him because you love him when you're actually inflicting a pain void of any verbal type of communication? So if you are going to have to talk to the child anyways, for example, I know some parents that will beat their children and then sit them down and be like, do you know why I beat you? I beat you because you did this, you did that, you did that, right? You see, it's not the beating itself that does the disciplining. It's the communication that comes later, right? You beat him, then you sat him down and told him why you beat him. And then you tell him, the next time you do it, I have no choice but to beat you again. Now, why do you have to beat that child when you can go through another method prior to that conversation? Now, if I have a child, I have 4 children, right? And they all have chores. And one of them misbehaves. I change the chore schedule. You are going to clean the dishes. You're going to take out the trash. You're going to walk the dogs. And I will supervise you. For the next 3 days, it's me and you. You ain't going to play no video games. As soon as you come back from work, you're going to read your books. I will supervise you. That means your discipline is now my number one priority. A parent that needs to beat their child is because they cannot prioritize the discipline of their child. Like, they just want to release their own emotional distress and beat their child and hope that child will somehow understand that the beating was because you love them. And because human beings have done it for a long time, people don't see the benefits of therapy, right? Therapy, listen, bro, we live in a world full of so many technologies, my bro, so many technologies. The average child today grows up and they're attached to their phones and their iPads. Bro, you take away the phone of a 13-year-old for a week. They can't talk to their friends. Take away all their video games for a week and see the effect it has on them. Those are dire consequences. That beating that you had to use 5 minutes, it's like taking the easy way out. Because as soon as you beat him for 5 minutes, he's still going to go play his video games and he's going to forget about that ass whooping. And you beat him 5 times, he gets used to the ass whooping. You beat him and then he goes right back and do. Bro, physical punishment doesn't work in 2024. It actually doesn't work. It creates rebels. Because as soon as that child realizes that you can't beat him no more, you know what he's going to do? He's going to do everything that you were stopping him from doing because he never really understood why you were beating him and you never showed him an alternative path to take. That is why it is necessary to actually make them work. Make them work. Like, give them something constructive that they can learn in the process sooner than later. Sometimes children are just immature. How do you make someone mature? You make them do things that mature people do. You make them grow up. If I have a son that bullies little girls, I'm going to take him to an orphanage. And we're going to serve together. I'll take him to a scenario where there's only females. And expose him to that environment. And I will coach him. You're a coach, bro. You're a coach. You're a parent, but you're also a coach. And the coach ain't going to get the players to play good by beating them. If you're going to beat your quarterback every time he throws a bad throw, guess what? You're just going to make him angry. Because he's got feelings and emotions. You need to be, like I said, bro, this is really my point because I know I said a lot. If you're not willing to invest time in the discipline of your child in order for them not to be spoiled, Of course, you're going to go the easy way, which is just beating them. But you don't gain anything. Like, you're not the man whom you are today, bro, because your parents beat you. You're the man whom you are today because when your parents stopped beating you, you actually went down the path where somebody coached you to understand the consequences of doing certain things. And you understood that, yeah, I don't want to do this because I don't want to go to jail. Not because your dad beat you. Not because your mama spanked you. Don't take the cookie. The cookie doesn't belong to you. How would you like it when somebody else takes your stuff? Create a scenario where something belongs to that child and have somebody else take it and ask him how he feels about that. There's no excuse in 2024 to be the child, bro. There's really no excuse, bro. I know you're reading the Bible, bro, but if you concede to me that it is a proverb, then you understand that you don't have to take it literally. Even if you can take it literally, you don't have to take it literally. And I think you're intelligent enough, smart enough, experienced enough to understand that it is a proverb. Anger issues, bro. I'm telling you, if you're beating to the guests listening to me right now, everyone listening to me right now, if you are spanking your kids, you are emotionally unstable. You got anger issues, and you are uneducated.
All right. So yeah, Bakanga, you said a bunch of different things there, and I want to touch on a bunch of different topics here. So I may be talking for some time, but you mentioned, that the main conclusion in terms of disciplining is going to be you want the child to understand, what they're doing and why it's wrong. So yeah, this is something that we agree on, right? I'm not saying you should just strictly spank your kids and not explain. Again, spanking your kids, we can even look at it as a last resort, right? I'm the main question that I'm going to constantly go back to in this debate is what happens when your resources have been exhausted, because you've brought up that there's many different ways to discipline a child, and I agree with you there, Bakanga. There's no disagreements, but my question is, what happens when your resources have been exhausted? What happens when you've done these things and the child is still going out and doing the exact same thing that you're telling him not to do? He's still raping children. He's still hitting his teacher. He's still getting into fights. He's stealing things. He's vandalizing property. He's causing public outbursts and problems, right? What happens when you've exhausted all of these methods, right? And what we've seen is certain particular kids need certain different types of discipline. So I'm not saying that, you shouldn't take time with your kids. It seems that you're trying to almost strawman my position in a way, saying that, everyone who spanks their kids is not wanting to spend time with their kids. Yes, I believe that is the case for some individuals, but that's not my position. My position is built upon you spending time with your kids. My position is built upon you talking with your kid, understanding your kid, and then within a particular circumstance or scenario, you making the judgment call, right, as the parent, saying, hey, I've tried these different methods, right? And even as a parent, right, if in the past, if you have spanked a kid and the kid learned from this, right, you trying these particular methods, and let's say the kid did some action and you spanked them and it worked, right? This would be indicative of this action is actually helping the kid, because it's allowing the kid to actually revere you and understand that you are the authority. Now, you mentioned that you don't want to generate hatred. That spanking your kid could somehow lead to the kid hating you. Well, Bakanga, that's in all different scenarios of particular forms of chastisement of your kid, disciplining of your kid, because you could put your kid in timeout and they hate you. You could talk to your kid and they have these strong feelings of hatred towards you. So I don't think just spanking your kids is going to invoke this hatred. They could have this hatred in any form of this, and also I don't think that we should care about necessarily if our kid hates us in the form in the case of helping this kid for a greater good. I don't care if I discipline my kid and my kid doesn't like me, if and only if that discipline is going to help my kid later down the line not go to prison, not get into deeper trouble that will actually cause them even more harm. So I'm okay with my kid not liking me so I can actually help my kid. I'm fine with that, right? And then also, right, you mentioned, that, you said, yeah. So again, you're kind of comparing and contrasting and like kind of diverging these two concepts of you're not spending time with your kid, therefore your only thing is to beat your kid because you're unintellectual and you don't know another way. Bakanga, again, I'm saying you're spending time with your kid, you're learning your kid, but what happens when all those options have been exhausted? What happens when you've already tried to do these methods that are not working? When I say spanking kids is good, again, I'm not saying for any situation whatsoever just spank your kids. I'm saying this is where you need to invoke discernment and judgment based on the offense, based off how many times you've instructed that kid, based off who the kid is, what their personality is, what their temperament is, and all these other factors in which the parent has the authority to make that judgment call to discipline their kid in this way. Also, Bakang, you keep mentioning that it's a proverb. Yes, proverbs are not supposed to be taken literally in entirety, but there are literal things in proverbs. There are many literal things in the proverbs, right? So you're not just supposed to read all the proverbs as a simple metaphor. There are literal things in the proverbs, many literal things in the proverbs. Yes, proverbs, they are poems, and some of them are definitely supposed to be taken, as some sort of, allegory or some sort of, comparison. But this specific proverb is not doing that. This is a literal proverb, and it literally says, whoever spares the rod hates his son. This is a literal proverb here, Bakanga. So again, my main question for you, and I think this is maybe we can find some common ground here, is what are you going to do when all the resources that you've tried are exhausted? What elevation of discipline are you going to take when all the means of discipline without physical punishment have been exhausted and this child has continued to rebel time and time again, and now it's looking like this child may get themselves into even deeper trouble without this physical disciplinary action?
Incarceration and isolation. When all else has failed, you incarcerate. That's
Okay,
literally the psychology behind our system of rehabilitation. That's why we
but
have
Bakanga,
prisons.
what if that has failed though? Like
If
like
if
like what if
if
that has
if
failed?
if incarceration fails, there's nothing else you can
Yeah.
do.
Okay, exactly. So Bakanga. So what you're saying is you would rather your kid, face life in prison for unaliving someone rather than you taking the precautive, measures of disciplining that child, physically disciplining that child so they won't go to jail for unaliving someone for years. You'd rather let that child go to prison for 30 plus years rather than physically disciplining that child, Bakanga. If that's what you're saying, I think at this point we maybe just be able just to say, okay, let's just agree to disagree, because that's where I draw the line.
I,
So
th- I
what is your
think
response to that?
I think you're trying to isolate the whole physical discipline thing to inflicting like pain with a whip. Putting your child to work is physical discipline. Like he's gonna get tired. He's gonna get tired. You make him work a 12-hour shift. You give him food, you give him water, you make him work, right? No parent typically makes their 13-year-old or their 10-year-old work a 10-hour shift. You observe, you supervise. Like I said, that is physical discipline. So, as long as there's another form of physical discipline, inflicting physical pain with a whip is not productive at all, my brother. It's not. There's other
Okay,
forms of physical discipline.
okay, but Conga, again, man, I'm hearing you. But again, what if those forms have been exhausted? Because I think that's what we're gonna like. Because again, you're saying there's no scenario whatsoever to invoke, and I'm gonna use, I'll just say this, to spank your kids. You're saying there's no scenario ever in any case, I don't care what the offense is, I don't care who the child is, I don't care how many times that you've talked to them, all the methods you tried to do this. So what I'm saying is, what if all those methods have been exhausted? Would you rather your child go to jail for 30 plus years for committing an egregious offense, or would you rather physically, or I would say, would you rather spank your children? Like if you had to choose. Like
Listen,
if you're put in a scenario where you had to choose, brother.
listen. If I have gone through every means of discipline
Okay.
and it did not work, like I said, the only thing that's left is incarceration and isolation from society. That's the life that that child is destined to live. Because I do not think, like you, I don't think if you apply what I'm actually saying, that it will not be successful. Especially depending, especially a 13-year-old, right? Like if my 13-year-old does something, I already have a system in place to discipline that child that has never involved physical discipline. So if I have to start beating him when he's 13, he will never understand why I'm beating him. So if you're gonna be spanking your kids, then spanking becomes the only way that you're ever gonna discipline him. Because the moment you don't spank him anymore, then he doesn't fear you anymore. Because he only feared you because you were gonna beat him. Now, if my child respects me, not only as his dad because I provide food, I provide shelter, but my child is also my friend because he can talk to me. He can tell me how he feels, and I will not belittle him. I will not insult him. That's why in parenting, based on my observation of the world, parenting involves not just that you establish authority and bully your children, but that you establish a healthy amount of friendship, because that friendship becomes the buffer when your authority as a parent can no longer work. Then you approach them as a friend, so they can open up to you how they truly feel. And once you understand how they truly feel, you would then know the tools necessary to supplement and help them understand that, look, you can't treat women this way. Because if you treat women this way, this is where you will end up. Check this out, bro. Preventing my kid from going to prison, we're going to take trips to prison every week for the next year, for the next 2 years if necessary. Okay? I will take you to every known criminal that is a horrible person. And I will put you in front of him. I say, look, you keep doing that stuff, you're going to be like this guy. You want to be like this guy? You want to be like this guy? In fact, you know what? We're gonna make you live in this prison for the next night, for one night, for one day.
Okay.
You can teach your children, because the point of discipline ultimately is for them to understand. You beat a person, that person is not gonna understand why you beat them. That's why even as adults, when we make mistakes, you don't correct an adult by beating them. You beat a criminal, it's not gonna stop them from doing the crime. You cannot rehabilitate a person by beating them. Because then you're inducing fear, not understanding, my brother. I understand how you're trying to rationalize it, but this is the problem with the Bible. This is my problem with the Bible, which you know that I have said multiple times. It was written by uncivilized people who did not have the resources that we have today. We literally got 2,000 years on these people, bro. They can't even begin to understand the world that we live in. We cannot, our character and our habits cannot be founded upon the mentality of people who can't understand us. And in 2024, the most efficient way to discipline your child is therapeutically. And it will work. If you reach the point where it no longer is going to work, even ass whooping is not going to work, bro. If therapy is not going to work, ass whooping will not work. So at that point, there's no other choice but to incarcerate.
Okay, so Bakanga, I guess I just want to raise, like a hypothetical here, because you said that, again, in no circumstance whatsoever you believe you should spank your child.
No.
So
Yes.
So my question for you is, would you rather spank your child, or would you rather your child would you rather your child die? Like, would you rather your child be in a circumstance in which, if they continue to do this thing, they could die, like, drug activity, gang activity, like hypothetically these sort of things, and you say, hey man, stop doing this thing, and they keep doing it, and you've exhausted all of those particular, therapeutic things. Now we're at a state in which the only other form of discipline you have is this physical form of discipline. So would you rather invoke that, or would you rather your child die?
What I'm saying is that the resources that we have in 2024, if properly used, you would never get to the point where you need to
Yeah.
physically beat them. And
See,
it's not that I would. Let me answer your question directly. Let me answer your question
I think that's
directly.
where we disagree, brother. Like, I think that's
Listen,
just where
I
we
would. It's
disagree.
not that I would rather my child die because I'm not a dumbass, right? Like,
Okay.
no, I'm
Okay.
not a dumbass. Like, I would
Okay.
never get to the point where it is either I spank my child physically, I beat my child, or they die. Like, I'll never get to that point.
Wait,
Because
why? Wait,
it
like, wait. How would you know
let,
you would never get to that point,
let me tell you
Bakanga?
why. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
In any scenario, let me use this example of gangs, right? If my
Okay.
child is exposed to gangs, I will take up my whole family and I will move to the one place where there's no human beings. Homeschool that dude, and I will homeschool, bro. Listen, listen. That's why I said, bro. How much do
Bakanga, not
you?
everybody has that money though, bro. Like you're like it's
No,
like
check this
Bakanga,
out.
like you're presupposing that everyone could just say, "All right, kids, we're moving to the suburbs," and like we're like
No,
Bakanga.
no.
Not everybody has like Bakanga. Listen, bro. Not everybody is as
I agree
rich
with
as
you.
you, bro, and
I
like and, and like smart as you and all that. Bakanga, we don't all
I
like have like loads of money to just take our kids to like the suburbs, bro. So
bro,
like you can't really use
I,
that.
I,
like
I agree with you, QTOP. I actually agree with you that not everyone
okay,
can. That is why people's incapabilities to prioritize that discipline is what makes them now default to having to beat the child because you know what we will take for you to really help that child, but it's not the price that you're willing to pay. You're not willing to move your entire family simply to help your kids stop being in gangs, right? So of course the only other way is to beat him. I'm saying to you that if helping your child stay away from gang violence is really your priority, if you really love that child the way you love that child, you're gonna sacrifice everything that you can sacrifice before you ever have to beat that child, even if it means you move to a whole other country.
yeah,
Even
but
like I
Kang, I
said,
agree with
bro.
you. But Kang, I agree with you. But if you don't, but Kang, this is what I'm saying. Like again, not everybody. Like, bro, there's a lot of people bro, like who live like, cause brother, I'm from the hood. Bro, like my parents,
Something's
like
not
we grew
right.
up and
Oh,
we moved,
sorry.
we moved, out of that area. And a lot of people in those areas, bro,
I
they
can't hear
work
you.
very hard, but they just don't have the financial income
One
resources
second, Q-Top.
to.
Something is
Oh,
wrong with
okay.
mine.
Oh, something's wrong with your mic. Oh, okay, my bad.
I don't know. Something's wrong with my mic,
Uh-oh.
my headphones. Let me just disconnect it
All
altogether.
right.
Let me just disconnect it altogether.
All right.
I,
Yes, sir.
all right, go ahead. My bad. I
Can
didn't
you
hear
hear
the
me?
last thing. I didn't hear the
Oh,
last
you
thing you
good?
said.
Oh yeah, I was saying yeah, like like I'm from the hood, brother, right? And so like I grew up around people who genuinely they work hard, but they will always be in that position all their life. And so I'm saying like if they've done everything, like because again, like my whole thing is like if the resources have been exhausted, like I'm not up here saying like you should just spank your kids. I'm up here saying if the resources have been exhausted, and given the conditions, given the particular scenario, this action you should do when there's nothing else to do. You're saying you should never do it. That's why I gave you the hypothetical. Would you spank your kids if and only if it prevented them from dying? Right? Because again, this is a possibility, and you'd have to show how that's impossible because you keep saying, these therapeutic things. Like again, I am granting you that may work for a lot of children, right? But let's just say there's one children in the world, because again, it's logically possible, right? That there is a kid out there who you've done everything, you've tried all the therapeutic methods, you've done everything, and this is the only thing that will work on that kid is physically is spanking them. So you're saying you would move. What if you can't do that? What if you've already suffered? You only have one job, two jobs, three jobs. You're trying to do everything that you can, but you don't have the money to move. That's just the area that you're in. You can't move. That's what I'm saying, Bakanga. Like, not everybody is like Bakanga. Not everybody has money, bro. Like you, bro. Like you assume that everybody has the money, brother. Like
Q-Top. So you're saying that if your 13-year-old was trying to join gangs and you've tried everything and it didn't work, you just beat his ass?
of course, bro.
Hold
If
on,
that's the
hold
only
on.
thing left to
How long?
do,
How long? How long are you gonna beat his ass for? to the point where he's not gonna figure out that he could just run away. Because listen, bro, if you beat your 13-year-old, bro, to make him stop going to the gangs, he's gonna go to the gangs one day and not come back home.
Okay, but that's just like some sort of hype. Like that's just like so. Again, I'm saying that is possible, but I'm saying like again, all these things are like so. Like all your forms of discipline that you invoked, the child could still disobey, even if you physically discipline them. They could still disobey.
Not if I induce incarceration.
But Conga, okay, then you have to prove how it's logically impossible for a child to like you have to prove, Bakanga, how you incarcerating a child would necessitate that child not continue to do that action. If you can't do that, Bakanga, then all you're raising is just a baseless hypothetical.
It's not because a baseless. It's not a baseless hypothetical. If my child is a troubled child, then that room right there. That's the only place you're going to be in for the next 6 months. And every time you step out of the house, I'll be with you. And then as soon as you come back in the house, you're going to be in that room. There ain't going to be no electronic devices. The only thing that's going to be in there is your books.
Okay, so Bakanga, what if the child just gets out of the room?
They're not going to get out of the room because I will supervise.
How? Okay, so how would you supervise them? Like, what if they just open the door and just leave? Like what are you going to do?
They're not going to open the door and just leave. Where are they going to go?
Why?
Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go?
Anywhere, bro.
Listen. Check this out. If you open the door and just leave, I call the police.
Okay, exactly. So you would call the police.
No, hold up. Like I said.
Listen, you just conceded.
QTOP.
No way. Bakanga, you would call the police on your kids?
Yes.
So Bakanga, so 1 second. Let me get this straight. You rather call the police on? Okay, this is it. I think this is it, Bakanga. No, I don't. I think this is where I think like this debate comes to a screeching halt. You're saying to me, you rather call the cops on your kids than spank them.
Yes.
That's your claim.
Do you know why?
Okay,
because
I think that we fundamentally disagree.
Check this out.
Yeah, I think we fundamentally disagree, bro.
Check this out, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes when your authority is not sufficient, appealing to another authority can assist in that situation. If you want to leave the house, right, and you want to just leave the house because I put you on timeout, guess what? I'll call the police. And when the police officers show up, the police officer is going to give you an option. You can stay in the house with your dad, or we're going to take you to the foster care system. How many kids do you think are going to choose the foster care system?
No, Bakanga, I know, brother. I'm agreeing with you, but brother, I would not put my kids in the authority of someone else's hands. Because again, bro, that police could just beat your kid as well.
The police doesn't have to beat the kid, because any kid that's old enough to understand the police, everybody fears the police, bro. Listen, QTOP.
Okay, all right.
Part of disciplining children is asking for help from other people, bro. You can't discipline your children alone.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why you have husband, wives, uncle, aunties, sisters. Bro, there's some things that you can't even explain to your son because you don't have that type of relationship with him. But your son got that type of relationship with his uncle. So there's going to be times when you got to pick up the phone and call his uncle.
I agree with that.
Exactly. So if I have no other choice, listen, bro, in 2024, bro, beating your child is child abuse. If you're going to physically beat your child, that's child abuse.
Okay. So Bakanga. So again, I just want, because I think this is where we're gonna have to, just fundamentally disagree. So again, you're saying, just ask you the question again. You're saying you rather call the police on your child rather than spanking them.
Listen.
Yes, you said yes.
How many children?
Just yes or no, brother.
Of course, QTOP. Listen. Listen,
bro,
QTOP.
There's no way, dude.
Listen, QTOP.
There's no way.
Listen, the police officers are authoritative figures, right? If you're a 9-year-old and you behave badly, right? I will call the police and I'll have them send 2 officers to my house, and the 2 officers will come. I will explain the situations to them. They will sit down and let that child know the consequences. Listen, this is what they will tell the child. If you keep doing what your dad told you not to do, the next time we come, we're going to take you. We're going to go put you in a cage. That will help that child. That's a method of communication. The police is a resource available to all of society. And if
Yeah.
you get to the point, if you get to the point where you got to physically beat your child and you haven't yet called the police on them, you got emotional problems. You're emotionally unstable.
No, okay, that's
Yeah.
again, but Kanga, I just think this is what it is. Okay, so okay, again, so you rather your child go to jail, Bakanga, than spank your child. Is
Bro,
that what you're saying?
one night in jail would teach him the lesson
Oh my
that listen, bro, listen,
gosh,
listen.
bro, dude,
One night in
bro.
jail would teach your delinquent son, bro. One night in jail
But
would teach your delinquent son all the lessons that 10 years of ass whipping could not teach him. Because you want to know something about pain, bro? We endure pain as time goes by, and unless you're gonna keep increasing how much pain you put on them, eventually he's gonna get used to it, and ass whooping is not gonna work.
okay, but Bakanga, that goes the same way with your, all your methods. It's the same logic, brother. And again, I'm taking. Okay, my position is I'm taking the precautive measures to keep them out of jail. You're saying I'd rather them go to jail and learn where they're out of your hands, out of your loving care, to where they're now in the care of the government, and they're in the care of a very dangerous environment in which they could literally be raped, they could be beaten, they could be abused, they could literally starve, rather than them being in your care where you spank them, you love them, you teach them. But you'd rather take them out of your care, out of your control, into an environment that they don't have any control over, in which no one actually loves them there, and they're going to be getting abused, brother. You rather them go somewhere and get abused than you spanking them, bro. Come on,
QTOP,
Bakanga.
QTOP. I
Come
don't
on,
think
man.
that you understand
Come
the
on, man.
system. I don't think you understand the system a lot that well. If you think that every form of like juvie is necessarily a violent place, there's a juvie where they just put disturbed kids and they're always under supervision, right? Like 1 week, 2 days, 3 days, unless they've actually committed a crime where they get a long-term sentence. You went to court. There's places where you can take delinquent kids, expose them to people who have already made the bad decisions that you're trying to teach them not to make, so they can observe and they can really have a real sense, right? Not rather you just beating them and then telling them not to do it when they don't even know, they don't have a real experience. Listen, bro, before you ever beat your child, you have to expose them to real life people who have actually made those decisions you're trying to save them from. If you haven't used that resource, you're not allowed to beat your child. You're just abusing them because you don't got the patience or the time to do what is necessary. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, wait. Okay, so Bakanga, so you're kind of like invoking this like beyond scared straight mentality, and people are typing that in the chat, and I think it's very um relevant to what you're saying, because like in Beyond Scared Straight, like they like take these kids, these really bad kids, to these jails, and they scare them, right? It's a fear tactic. And again, spanking your kid is invoking a type of fear, but I'm saying invoke the fear in your control, out of your loving care. You're saying invoke that fear outside of your control in another system in which they can get hurt even more. Again, I'm not saying that all juveniles, are these violent places, but I'm saying the probability of them getting hurt in a juvenile center even way greater than that little spanking that you did is way worse than them just getting spanked. The probability is way greater them getting abused in that juvenile center, brother, than you
Bro,
just spanking them
bro, there's no
a
such
little
thing.
bit.
There's no such thing as little spanking. If the pain is not sufficient to make the child uncomfortable, you ain't really spanking them. You just playing with them, bro. Like if you're not giving them a black eye and like beating the shit out of them,
No,
that's not spanking. Listen, bro. Listen, bro.
no,
Listen.
no, because now you're straw manning me, bro.
Check this out, Q-Top. Check this out,
No,
Q-Top.
dude, come on, man.
Check this out, Q-Top. When your dad used to beat you, what did he used to use?
A belt.
Yeah. And he used to beat you on the hand or he used to beat you on your back and what?
On my backside, yeah.
How many times did your dad have to beat you?
Not a lot for me to learn, to be honest.
Okay, what is the most important lesson that you learned because you were beat?
I learned to fear the authority, and I learned that I shouldn't be doing those actions anymore. I learned that there is a physical consequence to actions, and it taught me, that I can't just do anything that I want without a physical consequence. Because the consequences that and my parents, they just didn't beat me. They did try to talk to me. They did sit me down. But when those methods didn't work, and it got to the point to where I was still going to school, getting into fights, I was a bad kid. I was a little jit, just running around, just stealing things, robbing stores, and just doing whatever I wanted to do. My dad had to sit me down, and one time he took me out in the backyard and told me to put my fist up, right? And we actually, got down, because that's what it took for me to actually learn. And then once that was over, I never did those things again. Once that was over, I actually had a greater respect for my father, and I had a greater love for my father. He was willing, and he even told me he did not want to do those things. You don't spank your kid because you want to do it. You spank your kid because you love them so much that you're willing to go to great lengths, even spanking them, even harming them, to help them, to invoke a greater good down the line. That's why I asked you, would you rather your child die or you spank them? And it seems that you didn't answer that, Bakanga.
I would never get to the point with my child. No reasonable person will ever get to the point with their child where it is spank or die.
How do you know that though? Prove that claim.
Because there's no practical examples in society. If you get to the point with your child, bro, where it is actually spank or die, there's no hope. Spanking ain't gonna work at that point.
Why?
Because listen, bro. Because at that point, that child has already made up their mind to be what they're gonna be. And the more you beat them, the more you actually encourage them to be what they're gonna be. And all they're gonna want to do is stay away from you.
Okay, but Bakanga, what if we've seen specific examples in which, spanking a child led them to stop doing, and I can literally show you studies in which this is the last resort in which spanking a child actually led them to stop doing what they were doing. Because you're saying they would get to the point to where when you're spanking them, they still wouldn't actually, get better. I'm saying I can show you studies where spanking a child literally was the thing that stopped them from doing something. So I don't really get how you're making that claim.
For a lack of an understanding, or for the lack of the time to apply a better method.
I mean, I disagree.
Listen, bro. What is
civility? Bro.
There is a word called civilization, right? The word civilization, to be civil, right? To be civil means civility has everything to do with how we treat each other. If the only way you can teach your child is to beat your child, that's because you're not educated enough in other methods to reach the same end. That's what I'm saying. It's not necessary. For example, right? You can walk from California to Texas, or you can get on a plane. In 2024, there is nobody in this world that has a good reason to walk to California unless you're just broke. You have no other way. So like I said, unless you as a parent, you are uneducated, you have no resources, and you've just gotten to the point where nobody else, you can't even ask somebody else for help, then of course you're going to have no choice but to beat your child. Like I said, it has everything to do with yourself. In fact, let me tell you something, bro.
Wait, Bakanga, that's huge. Because I think that we can find at least just a tad bit of common ground there. You're saying, okay, again, if you had no choice and the only other option would be to beat your child, right?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. Bakanga, we agree. That's all I'm saying, brother. That's literally all I'm saying. Don't just beat you. I'm saying once you've exhausted all those resources, the only last thing to do is beat your child. I agree with you, brother.
Listen.
I think we got some common ground.
Listen, bro. But in situations where people actually beat their children, bro, they haven't exhausted all those resources. That's what I'm saying.
How can you make that? Okay, but I agree with you. No, brother, listen. I agree with you there. I agree with you. In most cases, I agree with you there.
In all cases, bro, how many people do you know that spank their children because they took a cookie?
Yeah, a lot. But I'm not saying that's right, though.
So if you're gonna spank your child because he took the cookie, that's because you don't got the patience to actually sit him down and follow another method that doesn't involve you beating him. You're taking the easy way out. Like I
Well, but
said,
I
it
agree with you.
if spanking,
I
bro,
agree with you here, brother.
spanking is only an option or even the
Okay.
last option of an uneducated, emotionally unstable person. Most people that are reasonable already have good relationships with their children, no matter how bad their child is. So your ability to discipline your child also depends on the type of relationship that you got with that child. And you can't have a bad relationship with your child just because of the child alone. So the fault is also that of the parent for not establishing a good relationship with the child to the point where the only way for you to communicate is to induce pain on the child.
Okay, Bakanga, but again, man, like everything that you just said, I agree. And I think that we found some common ground. Because again, I'm simply saying, and I would agree, brother, in most circumstances, right, people don't, exhaust those particular resources. They don't sit their child down. They don't do these. I would agree with you, right? But I'm saying in this situation when you have done these things, because again, I'm not saying, guys, for the chat, I am not sitting up here saying for your child simply stealing a cookie out the cookie jar or for your child not washing the spoon in the sink, you're just supposed to take them and just start spanking them. I don't agree with that. I'm saying when these particular circumstances, when there's been an egregious offense that is done constantly, like raping another child, and you've already sat the child down, and now he's on his third, his fourth, his fifth, his sixth victim, and this is the only other option that you have, and you even said it, then in that case, you have to spank that child.
Bro, to be honest with you, bro, anybody who's in a situation where you're like, your child is like raping like the fifth victim, bro, you gotta lock that dude up. You gotta lock that dude up. You gotta lock that dude up. You gotta incarcerate that dude. Like something is not right mentally in that child's head, bro. Like ass whooping is not gonna work for sure, bro. Like if you get to the point where it's your fifth victim, you gotta lock that criminal up, bro. That's a criminal. That's a criminal. You gotta lock that man up in a prison. And you gotta put that dude in solitary confinement, bro. Like QTOP, to be honest with you, bro, like, bro, if I was your son, bro, and bro, like, shit, bro, a person who spanks their kid, by the time they get to their fifth victim, bro, you would have already spanked them already, bro. You would have already spanked them. So by the fifth victim, bro, like, you gotta get some big ass bars, bro. Like, put that dude in there and feed him one time a day. Give him a cup of water a day, bro. That's it. And put that man in there for 2 years. Bro, if you can put him in a room with no sound and no light, you put that dude in there because something ain't right mentally. In fact, you might have to send him to a mental hospital, bro. Like, if you're my child, and you're on your fifth victim, yeah, it has to be psychological. The problem there is mental, bro. Like, it has to be. Now, if you're on your first victim,
okay,
there's still a lot of healthy ways to get there. Now, I understand that some people can use, like I was saying earlier to you, QTOP, I don't think you really got my point, where I said, I know what people do when they spank, because when my parents used to spank me, there were times when my dad would spank me, and he would sit me down and explain why he spanked me. And then if I did it again, he would just spank me. But bro, listen, bro, let me tell you, I grew up in Africa, okay? There's no child abuse laws over there. So a spanking is really not like a spanking. It's like, bro, like, bro, I got used to it.
But yeah, but
listen, bro, I got used to it. Bro, I got used to it to the point where my parents figured out that they can't spank me and it wouldn't work. Like, my aunt used to beat me, and I'll just be looking at her the whole time. I'm like, yeah, I can take it. You know, I figured it out. And you know what I do right after that? Right after that, I'm not going to clean the dishes. I'm going to still go play soccer with my friends. I will anticipate the ass whooping. And when she gave me the ass whooping, I still did what I was going to do because I got used to the ass whooping. That's why spanking, bro, is really not efficient. Because you want to know why I disobeyed? I disobeyed because I never saw the big picture. I had the mind of a child. I was tunnel vision. My emotions and my feelings was more important to me than what they were telling me. And beating my ass did not communicate that message. Like I said to you, QTOP, you did not learn because your dad beat your ass. You learned because your dad sat you down and spoke to you. Your dad gave you his undivided attention, and you gave him your undivided attention. So he communicated the message. Now there was a punishment, right? That is why I think, bro, it is not just important to punish children. It is also important to reward them when they do something good, even little things. Like if you have a reward system, you would never really get to the extreme point, right? So every time your child cleans the dishes, throw him a $25 coin. And then if he done it for a year, go to $5. As he grows up, every year you increase the reward that you give him, such that when he breaks and starts doing some crazy stuff, bro, just taking away that reward alone is therapeutic, bro. So
but again, man, like I think that you're kind of like presupposing that everyone just has like all this money to just like, just throw their child. Like, okay, I would agree that like, in certain, cases, you should reward your child. But the thing is, your child should, do these things out of love for you, right? And when your child, disobeys you, then in this particular instance, again, when all resources are exhausted, you should spank your child. You shouldn't have to give your child money for them to, listen to you. They should listen to you out of, the authority that you have. And, you should be teaching them biblical principles. And in Exodus chapter 20, and the 10 commandments, it says, honor thy father and thy mother, that your days shall be longer upon thy earth that the Lord has given thee. So the whole thing is, if your child actually understands that if they honor you, they will actually have a longer life. You should teach them biblical principles. You shouldn't have to give them money and give them all these things to bribe them into obeying you, bro. Because that's what it is. It's bribery. That's what that is.
No,
your
QTOP, no, you're wrong about that, QTOP. Listen, the end goal for discipline is trying to teach your children that actions have consequences. Not just bad actions. Good actions have consequences. Bad actions have consequences. If you're just beating your child for his bad actions, you're teaching him the consequences of bad actions. But if you've never taught him the consequences of good actions, he's not getting you. He don't understand why you're beating him. Like I said, bro, if you're a parent and you can't afford to give your 5-year-old 25 cents every time that 5-year-old does something good, you got mental issues. Like I said, listen, hey, Joe, come here, Joe. You're cleaning the dishes. You teach him how, it's like a job. You give him a job. Listen, bro, once you include the reward system, you are forcing that child to begin to think as a grown-up. Me and you, bro, we go to work not because we like working, because we have to work. You know what I'm saying? So if my 5-year-old understands that, look, cleaning the dishes is not just because I love my dad. It's my job. You know why it's my job? Because I get paid for it. So he's going to do it, and the reward will be the payment. And you know what he does when he accumulates that 25 cents? He's going to go get his favorite thing, and that becomes important to him. So when he begins to misbehave, you know what you do? You make him clean the dishes with no reward. And then he's going to have to think to himself, what did I do that dad don't want to pay me for my job? Guess what? He's going to think about it. That's the method of communication. And if you do that consistently, like I said, bro, people have children randomly in today's world. It really has to do a lot with people's trauma. A lot of parents themselves, they have trauma, and they take out their frustrations on their children.
No, I would agree, bro. Because you understand, bro. Like again, I think there's like, brother, like literally like 99% of this like debate here we agree on. Like we literally and McConaughey, like I agree that in certain situations, you should reward your child. I'm just not saying for every single thing that they do, you throw them a bone like a dog, man. You throw them a treat. They should begin to do these things out of the love for you, out of, the fact that you provide for them and you sacrifice for them each and every single day. So by default, they should do the good. I don't think you have to just constantly reward the good, because the child should do the good by default. Right? It's when they do the bad, it's when they go off course, you should actually discipline them, not always physically. But let me ask you this basic question, BAKANGA, because I think this is where like the rubber meets the road. And again, like this is it. This is where the rubber meets the road right here, brother. Hypothetically, okay, just do this little thought. experiment. If it were the case that you knew that spanking your child was going to get them to stop doing an action, right, that would stop their death, hypothetically, okay, again, hypothetically, okay, if it were the case that you had some divine foreknowledge, right, and you knew, okay, if I spank my child right now, he is going to stop doing this action that may lead to his death, would you spank the child? This is whether I need to live a hunger.
No. QTOP, you and your overreactions. You and your overreactions, bro. This dude got up from his chair. He's like, let me go get some water and drink. He's like, let me go and get some water and drink, bro. He's like, let me go and get some water. Oh man, QTOP. Let me tell you why I will not spank my kid. Simply because if spanking my kid is going to guarantee that he's going to survive in the future, I know, and I'm always conscious of the fact that there is going to be another way. The perspective of which I look at a parent-child relationship, if done right from the parent's perspective, a good parent would never get to the point where they have to spank their kid, bro. I'm telling you, spanking your kid is only necessary in the situation where you have a bad parent.
Bakanga, no, brother. Bakanga, I'll be honest, man. Like, I think this is where, like...
Listen, QTOP.
We're going to keep going.
Give me 20 seconds. Let me say this for 20 seconds. 20 seconds, let me say this.
Okay.
What you are saying is only true and only applies in a situation where you have a bad parent, not where you have a bad kid. Because if you have a good parent and a bad kid, the good parent with good parenting skills would never get to the point where they have to spank their kid. But a bad parent will have to resort to the last option, which is spanking. So spanking kids actually tells us more about a parent's state of mind than the kid's state of mind. If you have to spank your kid, that tells me a lot about you, what type of person you are. It tells me a lot about the job you've been doing. You have failed that child his entire life to the point where you got to beat this mother. You know what I'm saying? You got to...
Yeah. Okay, but kind of like, again, like, I think this is where, like, we're going to, like, because, again, this is, like, because we're going to keep just going in just a big circle here, brother. And, again, I think that, this was, very productive because, again, you're always putting the blame on the parent. And I'm just giving you a hypothetical in which the parent has done those things that you said. The parent has taken time with the kid. The parent has tried to go to therapy. The parent has spent thousands of dollars on different, trainers and doctors and people talking to them. The parent has sat the child down. The parent has put the child in timeout. The parent has talked to the kid, understands the kid, loves the kid, tried the reward system, sat the child down, bought the child. I mean, he's literally done everything he can do. And I'm giving you a hypothetical in which you have the foreknowledge, knowing that if you were to spank your kid at this time, he would not die. And your response was, I wouldn't spank the child. At that point, Bakanga, like, we just disagree, brother.
Actually,
like,
QTOP, let me throw you a bone. Let me tell you why my answer was no. My answer is no because that hypothetical is not realistic. But within that hypothetical, if at all I've tried everything and then I have a foreknowledge, right? That magical world. Listen. I will spank the kid.
There it is.
Hold up.
But we're there.
In that hypothetical world, which I don't think is realistic. That's not realistic. Like you would never be in that type of situation in the real world, bro, unless you're just a horrible parent, like I said.
Okay, no problem. Okay, but Bakanga, but look, you can agree though, in that hypothetical, right? You would spank your child. So Bakanga, we have the exact same view.
No,
Bakanga, listen. Your view is just that that's a bad parent because your view is the parent should have the capability to be able to use other disciplinary action to not have to actually physically harm that child. But what you're not taking into account is some children don't react to those methods. Some children live like your overall presupposition is that all children will respond in a particular way when these certain disciplinary methods are enacted. I'm saying there is a child out there who will not respond to those, but you're saying all children will. So I'm more of like a skeptic, and I'm saying, hey, Bakanga, I agree with you. In most cases, you don't have to spank a child. In most cases, you literally can just talk to that child and that child will learn. But I'm saying in some cases, you will have a child who may not learn in those things. So that's where, brother, we agree. We literally agree here, brother. Like we just found
that's because you give a hypothetical, QTOP. In the real world, right? In the real world, if every other method doesn't work, that actually tells us that's a diagnosis that child actually has a mental issue. So in that type of situation, that also guarantees, bro, if you get to the point where your last choice is to beat the child, that means that spanking is not going to work either. If every other method doesn't work, to where you get to the point where the only option is spanking, because let me tell you what's actually happening here, QTOP, especially in your situation, the example you gave me about yourself. In that situation where your dad spanked you, I deemed that spanking unnecessary because there were other efficient ways of doing it. Now, your dad did spank you, true. You did learn, true. But the spanking was unnecessary. Why? Because if your dad was considering your mental state of mind, he would have used the other methods that were available to him. But he chose to go to the extreme because he wasn't willing to go the whole 100 miles. So it appears as though the spanking is the reason why it worked. But in reality, the spanking is not the reason why it worked. The reason why it worked is because you are a child who has the ability to already understand. So all your dad really had to do with you is to simply talk to you in a situation where he knows that you have his undivided attention. If the only reason why I'm doing something is because I'm scared that my dad's gonna beat me, as soon as I know that my dad's not gonna beat me, I'm gonna do it. If I know that my dad is not gonna find out, I'm gonna do it. Right? Bro, let me tell you, bro. Like, children think, children are smart, right? Like, if I'm gonna do something and I know that the punishment is ass whooping, and the only thing I have to do is avoid ass whooping, then I'm gonna start thinking of ways to make my parents not find out what I'm doing. That's why a lot of people go around thinking that they got good kids. And then when you actually find out what that kid has been doing, you're surprised.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm saying, bro, you are killing two birds with one stone if you use another approach rather than spanking, because using another approach, you inadvertently teach them other skills that help support your discipline, right? Like if I make my child working is a good thing anyways. Even if he wasn't a bad kid, I would still have to make him work. But if making him work can deter him from investing time into toxic things that lead him down that path of being a bad child, then if I'm a good parent, I will never get to the point where my last option is to beat my child. Like I said to you, bro, our parents did that to us because they were not skillful parents. Parents got faults, bro. Parents got faults because parenting is a skill. You don't just get up one day and pop babies out and you know how to raise children, bro. So we have to teach parents how to be parents. Teach them these different methods, these therapeutic ways of learning how to communicate with their children. It doesn't invalidate what you said when you said your children should fear you. Yes, my child should fear me if he understands that I'm the one who's paying for the food. And if he don't do what I said, he ain't gonna eat. And I know that if he goes to sleep without eating, he ain't gonna die. I know that.
Yeah. Wait, so Bakang, so you rather starve your child than to spank him? Like,
well, if you're a Christian, if you're a Christian, you believe in fasting, right? It's not starving, it's fasting.
All right, Bakang.
It's fasting. It's fasting.
So different, bro. Okay, I'm not gonna get to that. Okay, but Bakanga, bro, like
you want to switch topics?
I think because it is getting late, brother.
No, no,
But man,
we've
I
come.
think this is where we can
The
find like
conversation is over. You're right. Like we've come to a conclusion. You got your position, and I think we understand each other. You understand what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
good,
definitely understand you,
good.
brother. Like
Right.
I'm brother. Like all like my whole positioning in this live has just been like, I want to take the measures, that are necessary to stop my child from harming themselves greater than the harm of spanking, right? And so if I can take a measure that is going to, yes, harm my child, but stop them from harming themselves even more, I'm going to take that specific measure. Now, I'm not just going to take that measure for anything, right? Again, I'm going to try all these other things, bro. Like, I'm going to sit them down, I'm going to talk to them. But once those things are exhausted, I'm going to spank my child. Now, you're saying, hey, you should do these other things, the child's going to learn. I feel like you're making a bunch of, like, presuppositions because I'm coming from, like, the skeptical perspective. I'm coming from, hey, man, I get that those things could work, but I don't know if they will work, right? You're coming from, I know that if I do these things, it's going to work. I know this. I know if I like teach him these things, he's going to do this. I know if I put him in a room, then he's going to But I'm saying, hey, Bakanga, maybe those things won't work. Maybe those things won't work, and it doesn't mean that your child is crazy. It just means that that child may have a personality in which he needs to be physically disciplined to learn. And
Bro,
that's just
it's called manual labor. It's called manual labor. Physical discipline is manual labor, bro. You don't have to beat the dude.
Okay, man. Well, yeah, I think we can agree to disagree, brother.
Yeah. Your last option is spanking, and I'm within your realistic view of the world. Within my realistic view of the world, manual labor should be your last option, right? Like you make that dude work. I'm telling you, bro. Like when I grew up, bro, I grew up in Africa. We're done with that conversation real quick. Let me just tell how I grew up, bro. Like we used to walk everywhere we went. We went to the farm, bro. Like, and when I did something wrong, sometimes you know how my dad used to discipline me. He would give me, well, we would go to the farm, we'd do some cassava, some potatoes, some yams, right? And during harvesting season, we will harvest them and put them in bags. And obviously, you don't want to overload the bag of a child. But if I was being bad, my dad gonna make sure my bag was twice as heavy as he knew I could carry it. Everybody else gonna carry their bag. They're gonna walk that 10 miles in front of me. My dad trusts that I know the road, and he's gonna be like, we're gonna get there and we're gonna wait for you. You're gonna bring this 100 pounds of yams. You're gonna bring it. And you know what I did? I'll be angry the whole way.
Yeah.
But I would think to myself, I can do it. I have to rest every 5 minutes. It took them 30 minutes to walk there, and when they got there, they were tired, so they rested. While they were resting, I was still walking. It took me 2 hours to get there. You know what I'm gonna think next time we go to the farm? I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna make these people make me carry that heavy load. So every time we went to the farm, if I was being good, my dad would make me carry nothing. That's discipline. That's physical discipline. That's what you're saying. I think you using that word spanking, bro, you are putting yourself in a very difficult position because you are making the assumption, you are presupposing that spanking is the only form of physical discipline. It's not.
No, I'm not. Bakanga, no, I'm not. I already agree with you, bro. There's other forms of physical discipline. I'm just saying, brother, again, it gets to the point to where once you've done these things, again, if your dad, had you carry, that load, and you're carrying that load, and you're tired, and you're sweating, and honestly, it's gonna build your arms up, you're gonna and you're carrying that load, and you're still not learning, and it makes you carry even harder, and you're still like, all I'm saying, because again, it just comes down to what is our last resort, and you're saying this particular means of discipline, you don't want to do, but you did say, if it stops your child from dying, you would do it. And so I at least, I would at least, tip my hat there. right, to you and say, okay, Bakanga, at least thank you for saying it. Because at first you said no.
Yes, bro, like I said to you,
you kind of
it's
went,
because you gave a hypothetical, which I don't think is realistic. But if I was being honest with you within your hypothetical,
okay.
I would say yes, because you presuppose that I already know what will happen at the end. But ain't nobody doing that in real life. Nobody knows. So that's not practical. Hypothetically, yes. But realistically, no.
But Bakanga, I can flip the script on you and say the exact same thing, because you're it's like you're invoking this divine foreknowledge whenever you say, I know that when I do these actions to my kids, they're not going to keep doing what they're doing. I know that I talk to kids, I keep going. You're invoking that same divine future thing, right?
Okay,
to say that they're not going to do that. They're doing.
I think you might be misunderstanding me, bro. Because okay. I'm not talking about an isolated circumstance. I'm talking about a system of parenting. This is how you should be disciplining your kids as soon as they're old enough to understand A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. So you start when they're really young, and when they get to that point where they get to that age of delinquency, you literally have experience already, right? Like you start when they're 2 years old. Most people who spank their kids, they start spanking their kids as soon as their kids are like not even old enough to understand anything, right? So if you've been depending on spanking, obviously you always resort to spanking. But if you already have a system in place, that system is always going to work. That's why what I'm saying is systematic. It's not isolated to a singular circumstance, a singular event. In the case of a singular event, of course, okay, let me put it this way. What you're saying would apply to what I'm saying in a situation where my kid literally has been a good kid the whole time. Then when he's 13, he gets in with some bad friends and I don't really know about it. 6 months down the line, they go rob a bank.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm going to sit my kid down and I'm going to try every method that I've tried this whole life. It doesn't work.
Okay.
This is what my last result would be. Incarceration. I ain't going to beat his ass.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Bakanga. Okay, so like I said, brother, I think this is a good place, to end, man. I super late. I have to get up early tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. But I do need to go. I do need to go do my show. But I figured I could give you 1 hour. And this was good because
look, okay, I'll be in there, bro.
I know. You be spying. I'll be
spying up on you, bro.
I know.
Hey, bro, don't get it twisted, bro. We gotta still debate about God one day, bro.
QTOP.
Don't get it twisted, bro.
QTOP.
I still want that smoke, Bakanga.
QTOP.
I still want that smoke.
I think that we can talk about that life where those people got together to slander you, because we texted about it, but we never spoke about it. Let me tell you, bro, why I thought that what they were doing was despicable as hell.
Yeah, that was bad.
It's within that same logic that I'm telling you that I don't have to beat my kid, bro. Because QTOP, I'll be honest with you, everything they were saying and criticizing you in your character, bro, it is true. Like, except the part where they were saying the whole PDF thing, bro, that's like just bullshit. That's just stupid. Because I think that what you were saying within context, you were not saying that. You were speaking within a specific context. You were speaking almost within a specific hypothetical. You were not condoning that behavior. You were explaining within a context. And anyone that got an ounce of logic should be able to understand that you're not condoning it, but you were demonstrating a situation. Now, check this out, bro. A Christian who does not practice what they preach is despicable to me. When I see a Christian slandering another Christian in an open public work, in a public platform, bro, to me, they are worse than the person they're slandering, bro. That's just period.
Yeah.
If you don't practice what you preach, but you look at another person's fault, and you haven't exhausted every other option to reach them out to where you got to come to the internet and shit on their name, you smell. You smell bad.
And that's why, a lot of people have problems, with the Bible and with Christianity, because a lot of Christians don't practice what they preach, and that's why a lot of people do have problems with it, because it's one thing to call yourself a Christian, but it's nothing to actually live that out, and a lot of Christians just generally don't. It was disgusting what she was doing, man. Other people were coming up there and
they were just hating. That's called hate.
They were just bashing my name, bro.
Yeah,
they were talking.
They were just hating.
how
I don't think any of those people have reached out to you personally, be like, hey, QTOP, let's talk off the phone. And bro, even if they can't reach you, bro, for people who believe in God, at a certain point, you just leave it in the hands of God. If you're gonna take on the responsibility of condemning this person, because bro, her life said, this is what her life said. Her life said, unfollow QTOP.
Yeah.
Let's get him blocked. Bro, like,
Yeah,
why are you trying to do that? Bro, I understand you, okay, bro? I understand you to the point where it's okay that you are the way you are, but it's never to the point where I'm like, hey, let's silence this dude. That's
Yeah,
like
and the thing is, I
that's
don't
like
claim
cancel
to be a
culture.
perfect man. That's the thing, but kind of like we're not. I don't claim to be a perfect man, but if they're going to claim to be a Christian, it's like don't bash somebody because it's like first take the log that's out of your eye before you can see it clearly to take the speck that's out of your brother's eye. And if I recall, you actually told her that because it's like she's sitting up there bashing me. It's like you have so many things that you have to deal with before you're coming talking about somebody else. It's like, yeah, I don't claim to be a perfect man, but don't publicly bash me and slander my name for something I didn't even do. She said I called for the unaliving of queer people. I've never said those words. Ever. I've never called for the unaliving of queer people. Ever. I would never say something as despicable as that. Ever. So yeah, bro. I'm gonna be honest with Conga, man. All respect, man. Like when you went up there, man, and because like I said, real knows real, but like we may disagree on a lot, brother. And we're gonna have disagreements. People are gonna, but honestly, the human race is gonna be having disagreements until this human race comes to an end. People are gonna always disagree about something, bro.
It don't mean we gotta be enemies. It don't mean we gotta be enemies.
It doesn't mean
it don't mean we gotta try to assassinate each other's characters. It don't mean, bro. There was a story in the Bible where Jesus' disciples came and told him that there was a bunch of people who were preaching in Jesus' name, but those people are not Christians. They're not following Jesus, right? And I don't know if it was Jesus, but I think the response was, as long as the name of Jesus is being preached, that's what matters. So I think that a Christian should never look at another Christian and try to shut them off completely to the point where you want to silence them if they're literally promoting your God and promoting your religion.
Yeah.
That was my problem with it. Like, I can't stand Christians bashing each other. I can understand disagreeing. I can even understand you not wanting to talk to each other. But the point where you begin to assassinate each other's characters, that's why I preach against your religion, bro.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna be honest with you, kind of like it made like your arguments against Christianity. Like I'm not gonna lie,
it made it valid. It made it valid.
I'm not gonna like. It made it. It definitely demonstrated some validity in those because it goes to show how Christianity and all the people in Christianity, or people who claim to be Christians, are very divided. Now there are true Christians who would never, ever do something like that. But in the name of Christianity, in the name of good, there's people who genuinely do evil and harm against Christianity and make it just give it such a bad rep because of people like her, literally. Like it makes this system of thought honestly look terrible. And that's coming from somebody who I would literally give my life today for this Bible and for the Lord Jesus Christ. I would give my life for this. But she made it look like trash, is what she did.
That is why QTOP, take this as a word, just take this as just advice, bro. It is your responsibility and her responsibility to communicate with each other so that you guys don't misrepresent your greater purpose, right? If every Christian in the world agreed and treated each other, listen, like I said to her, your Bible says that the world will know a Christian by their love for one another. Y'all don't love each other. Something is either wrong with y'all or something is wrong with y'all's religion. Which one is it?
Yeah, man.
Between you and her, bro, like if she's saying that you can't communicate with her, bro, you might have to like maybe find a way to either hear her out and you and her come, like, you find common ground, and then you guys come back and tell the world that, look, we were fighting, but now we got this situation resolved. But you cannot leave it like that. Then it makes you just as guilty as her, because you guys are promoting the same religion. Now, like you, bro, like bro, you're like me. I know I do lies as well. And sometimes when somebody is saying some stuff that I just think is irrational, I just take them down. Sometimes, bro, I curse people out. Like sometimes I just insult motherfuckers. But I'm not following any book, right? So I'm an unbeliever. I can do it. But you're a believer. You be doing this sometimes, QTOP. But like I said, I understand that you're human. I understand that I think your religion is bullshit. So if I see you doing something that is based on what I think, that I disagree with, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you're a human just like me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and brother, and like that's the thing, because it gives Christianity a bad rep, but most of those people aren't even Christians, and that's the thing. It's like Jesus makes it very clear. You will know them by their fruits. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit. A good tree will
Matthew chapter 7. That's my favorite verse that I like to use against you guys. Matthew chapter 7 from verse 15.
Yep. A good tree will only bear good fruit. But the whole thing is, Bakanga, it's like, she's not, in my eyes, her fruit was so despicable, so disgusting, so diabolical, so abominable, that the Apostle Paul would have cut her off from the church. The Apostle Paul would have said, this is anathema, and totally cut her off because of her conduct and what she was doing. And so, yes, brother, like I can at least see it from your side and see how, this would make Christianity look bad. Now, I would say, don't judge Christianity off of people. I would say judge Christianity off of Christ. But again, I can totally see it from your side. Most Christians can't see that. I can see it from your side and say, yeah, this would definitely make someone who is an unbeliever look at Christianity and say, why are these so-called Christians fighting when they're supposed to be loving each other? Like, I can definitely see that from your side, bro. I'll just say that. I can definitely see it from your side.
This is the lesson here, QTOP. Even you need to go and put this to practice. You are responsible for showing her love and kindness, no matter what you think of her. Like, you are not the Christian you claim to be, bro, if you haven't yet reached out to that sister and tried every means humanly possible to have a conversation with her. Find your disagreements, find your agreements, but stand on common ground. As long as you two are slandering each other, I would say that slandering each other, right? Because I gotta be real with you. I don't need to be fake with you, right? Like, you understand where I'm coming from.
Her, though, bro. Yeah. I haven't slandered her.
So as long as those of us who criticize your religion watch you guys fighting each other, bro, Christianity will always be bullshit. If we get up one day and all Christians are on the same page, like, it's gonna be like, oh, something's going on here. They got something, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah, but okay, yeah. I think we can, yeah, Bakanga. I mean, that's good, brother, and I think that we can end it there, man. I'm gonna be honest, brother. Bakanga, it is always a pleasure, man. We gotta have a formal debate about God one day, brother.
Yeah, we got
that's to. That's what the people have been waiting for, bro. But that's, like I said, we gotta schedule something, because that's gonna be like a 4 or 5 hour debate. So,
I don't know why you're so hungry for that ass whipping, but it's coming. It's coming. Bro, like, I appreciate you, bro. I've been recording this, right? Because I'm gonna put this on my YouTube as well. It's been an hour and 38 minutes. I'm about to jump on my life, right? You know what I'm saying, bro? Thank you, QTOP. It's always fun talking with you, bro. And stay real to yourself now. Stay real to yourself. Don't be fake now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you always be yourself. No matter disagreement, it's good to have your own mind. I am actually very convinced that you are going to deconstruct. That's one of the reasons, bro. Like, bro, one day you're gonna come on this internet and you're gonna tell these people that you're preaching to, bro, that it's all bullshit. Yeah, that's what I think. One day you're going to do it, like, bro, you're gonna do it. Because you are a smart individual, but you're growing up. You're still growing up, and when you reach full maturity, bro, let me tell you how it's gonna start for you. How it's gonna start for you, bro, is that you're gonna understand that is it possible that God could exist and Christianity be a false religion? That's gonna be the first thing that's gonna go through your mind.
No, it's not possible.
Okay, if it's not possible, then
bro,
you stay
I don't
real
wanna-
to yourself.
But yeah, look, yeah, but like I said, but